Did they make
No,
contact?
no. It's pretty close, but this is going to be a drag race.
Right
Look at
there,
this.
moves
Wow.
him to win it. Carl Edwards bump and dump and run.
The bump and run.
There it is.
Gordon underneath to the lead. 2 laps to go.
Didn't mean to really turn around, meant to rally his cage up.
Yeah, welcome to the Bump and Run podcast. I'm your host, Michael DY, joined by my two best friends, Matt the Stat Man Reilly and Eric Daytona Ron. Good evening, gentlemen. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. And whenever you're listening to this show, if you're liking it, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Available every other Monday night, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and more. And every Tuesday morning, video available on YouTube. It's the off season. We're doing it every other week. But I lied to you guys. Last week, we skipped an extra one. We took 3 weeks off. I apologize. I know you've been asking for the show, but we're here. We got tons and tons of news to talk about. But first, gentlemen, how was I guess the last 3 weeks? We were going to do it last Monday, and then we pushed it to Wednesday because Richard Petty Motorsports had some big news on Tuesday we wanted to hear, and then we were going to do it Wednesday night. But Matt, you had to take your dog to the vet, and I think Eric went to go see REO Speedwagon. So how's everything on the home fronts for you guys?
Yeah, that was a scheduled vet appointment, just a routine checkup. So everything's all good with my Chase man, and good, man. Just getting ready for Christmas. You know how the grind is. Like I every year come like June, I always tell myself, you know what? I'm gonna buy all the presents I need to get.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get it out of the way, so by the time the holidays come around, I can just enjoy it. And then it's like December 5th, and I'm like, I haven't done a damn thing yet. So every year it happens. So here we are.
Same boat, dude. Like I'm looking at the date right now. It's the 13th. I'm like, I got 12 days. The 12 days of Christmas. That's the song, right? We're counting them down. How about you? How about you, Eric? How's it going?
It's going good, going good. I can't complain. Like you said, I went to see REO Speedwagon on Wednesday night at Penns Peak, which is only probably about a 35-minute ride from where we are here. And I've never been to that venue. And I'll tell you what, awesome place to go see a show. It's very, I would say, personal.
Oh, yeah.
Venue. I wouldn't say like small, but it's.
I think it seats about 2,000.
Wood on the inside. The sound was great. There's no bad seat in the place.
No, yeah.
For people listening, it is a great venue. For people listening, it's only about 20 minutes away from Pocono Raceway.
Yeah, it's in the Jim Thorpe area. So it's like the Lehigh Valley area where Pocono Raceway is real close to there. Just jump on the turnpike when you get down here. But yeah, awesome place to see a show. I was actually there on Saturday seeing a Bob Seger tribute band, Night Moves, or no, Hollywood Nights. They were awesome. But like you said, it's like super intimate, and they get like cool acts. Like you said, REO Speedwagon was just there. I wanted to go see Joan Jett. She's supposed to play down there in a little bit. Like those bands where like they wouldn't fill an arena. They might fill a theater, but this is like a little bit smaller than a theater,
I haven't been to a concert, and I love concerts so much. I haven't been to a show since before COVID. Like I've been to sporting events and stuff like that, but yeah, I think the last concert I saw was Garth Brooks in Pittsburgh. I miss concerts.
Yeah, me too. In fact, weirdly, this was the first real concert I've gone to. Was Hollywood Nights, the Bob Seger tribute band. The last concert I went to before everything got shut down was Hollywood Nights at Penns Peak. Like literally a week before like all hell broke loose with COVID and everything. Besides like the infield block party concert at Pocono Raceway this past summer. But like, I don't count that. That was kind of like included or whatever.
You know what though, dude, that concert M80, the band M80 is one who does the infield concert at Pocono.
Yeah, they were awesome.
Phenomenal. Yeah. That's probably why I enjoyed it so much. I mean, that and the 30 beers we drank that day, but it was the first concert I was at in probably 2 years. years.
I was gonna say, Matt, I don't think you were with us. I think our group got split. I think I was with Eric at the time during the M80 concert, where like I had my eyes closed and I was rocking out.
Oh,
like,
I was
hard.
there. I was there.
Were you there? Okay. And like supposedly I fell asleep standing up listening to M80, but I'm pretty sure I was just soloing guitar, you know?
We're just in the moment,
Yeah.
soaking it all in, dude.
I mean, that was Saturday night after we saw a truck race, a cup race, drank a million beers, and then it was like 10 o'clock at night. You know, it's a long afternoon and night, you know? But
I just think though, like I've been wanting to go see REO. This is for 2 years now, and obviously it just kept getting postponed. So we bought the tickets on a whim that previous Saturday. So like on like 4 days' notice, we bought some tickets. And I was notified the following Thursday after the concert by my father that I'm no longer allowed to take my mother to concerts anymore.
oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh,
We got a little too good of a time.
Yeah, we got a little tuned up. She left her phone in my buddy Colin's dad's car on the way home. She had no phone. We both missed work the next day, dude.
Oh, yeah.
And Eric, your mom's a small lady too.
Oh,
You
yeah,
gotta
dude,
be careful.
feeding her wine. I was drinking I think I was drinking Coors Light on draft, and I was getting her like White Zinfandel wines, and
Nice.
we were putting them back, dude. We enjoyed ourselves that REO show, man. They killed it.
Hey, here's the thing, though. It's been a long time since we could go out and do stuff like that. I'm sure your mother hasn't been to a concert since all this started happening.
Oh, exactly. She was extra thrilled to be out.
And you know what? I think that's why, like, not to get like too off topic here, but you guys, I'm sure you, like me, you see those fights happen at sporting events all the time now, where you just see videos every week of like, I think I saw some Rams fans getting into it over the weekend. They're like punching each other in the face in the crowd and stuff like that. I think because people have just been kept inside for so long and like they're just raring to get out that like as soon as you let them loose, people turn into animals.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, 'cause instead of yelling at their TV at home and like, beating their wives up or something, now they just take it out on the guy sitting in seat F9 next to them. You know what I mean?
well, I hope no one's beating their wives up watching a sporting event. Anyways,
Oh, dude, football fans are crazy, bro. Like some of the videos that go around on the internet, dude, is
Well,
insane.
well, I don't condone that kind of behavior,
Oh,
please.
I don't condone that either, dude. But I'm telling you, you would go to a soccer game, dude.
Well, people get crushed at soccer games.
Dude, soccer games they like light the field on fire and shit. Like
Absolutely
soccer games
insane.
over in Europe get wild.
Well, there's a reason why they call them hooligans.
To wrap this back in, I've been going to NASCAR events since 2012. Never seen a fight at a NASCAR event.
Me
Never.
neither.
That's a
Never.
lot. Never.
Um,
Like, I mean, I don't even know if I've really ever gotten into an argument.
no, I don't.
I'd have to ask my dad because he's been going to them a lot longer than we have. If he's ever seen one, but you know what? Like that kind of shows like the kind of fan NASCAR fans are. Like it's a family when you go to these events. I mean, you always like yell at people who's wearing like gear of drivers you don't like, but you always bust balls. But there's never ever that I could think of it. Never been a problem.
Yeah,
Well, I think more accepting because like we understand it. You know what I mean? Like, okay, like I'm gonna bust your balls, like you could bust mine. But like when it comes to other sports, like you said, Whitey, like a Rams fan is talking to like a 49ers fan, and like they could bust each other back and forth, but like you said, it's gonna lead to an altercation.
Oh, yeah.
That dude, it never leads to that. You laugh about it, you giggle, and you kind of move on. You know.
I think because there's so many different drivers and stuff like that. Like when you're in the crowd at a Rams game, and you're like, it's a home game or whatever.
You're amongst
Yeah,
you're amongst 60,000 people that have the same rooting
like-minded,
interest as
yeah.
you. Yeah.
So when you're an opposing team, it's like being a Cowboys fan and going to see the Cowboys play at the Eagles Stadium. Like you don't wear a Cowboys shirt because you're gonna get harassed and you're gonna get beer thrown on you because Philadelphia sports fans are savages, right?
Yeah.
But when you go to a NASCAR event, it's not like, oh, the whole crowd is this one guy's fan and everyone else is like the enemy of that, So I think that's where it kind of differs.
You know what else too, though, is like with us especially, we probably don't see a lot of fights because like our group of friends, like we get along with everyone.
Yeah.
Like that. Have you ever noticed that? Like wherever we go, whether it's a bar
We're
or a
just making
sporting event
friends.
or a concert, we make friends. So that's probably another reason why we don't see a lot of fights.
Well, I think because we're all friendly guys, you know?
Yeah.
Every year at Pocono, I come away with a new lifelong friend out of it. Like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's insane. Like anyone that camps next to us, they turn into a friend. You know what I mean? And like we try to camp next to them, you know, year in and year out. And yeah, like I do. Like it makes me feel good about our sport in that aspect because you know there are some things that we get, you know, obviously busted our balls about, you know, being NASCAR fans and whatnot.
yeah.
But I'm proud to say that like when you're there and you go, like we've done it this summer where we changed a lot of people's
Perceptions.
general perception of it for sure.
Well, and that's the thing too. I saw a great tweet. I forget who it was by. It was on a regular like NASCAR commentators Twitter, like a NASCAR Twitter guy. And he said the one thing about NASCAR is we could all have rivalries against each other's drivers and stuff, but when someone outside of the sport attacks NASCAR as a sport, we all have each other's backs, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like that goes to show for the fan experience too, you know, like
We're protective.
and like I went down, I met like all of your guys' people that you've met throughout the years, and they're like, oh, you're cool with him, or you're cool with us, you know? It's like one of those deals,
That's
you know?
exactly how it works. Yep. Hey, look, I still let my, you know, my cousin Shredder, I still let his wife come over to the house and watch the races.
Yeah.
I don't wear the 22 shirt or colors, but she's allowed over.
I mean, if she wears that Logano shirt, she could watch through the window, but
Right.
she's still at the house with you
But she's
guys.
still there, right? And
Yeah.
that's what matters.
In February in the Northeast, freezing cold outside.
Hey, if you wanted to be warm watching the Daytona 500, you should have gone in person. All right, you guys want to jump into the NASCAR news? We got like 3 weeks to talk about. So we last left you on November 23rd. It's now December 13th. We'll just fly through a lot of these. Spire Motorsports, I thought that was pretty interesting. They're going to field a Truck Series team in 2022. So it looks like they're looking to develop some younger talent there. That should be interesting. Front Row Motorsports set its 2022 lineup. Of course, Michael McDowell will return, and truck driver Todd Gilliland will move to Cup. So Anthony Alfredo out, being replaced by a Truck Series regular. Let's see. NASCAR is expected to return to the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. So we've been covering this story bits and pieces throughout the year. Of course, Dale Jr. and Marcus Smith, who's the track promoter for SMI and Bristol Motor Speedway. They want to get a cup race back at the Nashville Fairgrounds. A couple months ago, they met with the mayor. The mayor signed a letter of intent, and it seems that is moving forward. They're going to start upgrading the facility to someday be able to hold a Cup Series event. Obviously not going to happen in 2022. They're looking at maybe 2023 or 2024. So that should be interesting to see what happens there. Get some short track racing in. And last show, we talked about the SMI in acquiring Dover Motorsports, which owns Dover Speedway and Nashville Super Speedway. So I wonder if they'll take Dover's date and move it to the Nashville Fairgrounds and have 2 races in Nashville, or move the Nashville Super Speedway date over to the Nashville Fairgrounds. Should be interesting to see what happens with that. What would you guys rather see?
Well, I would assume, just from a smart business point of view, just they would move it from Nashville Super Speedway over to the Nashville Fairgrounds, just because, I mean, that's what, a 30 or 40-minute drive in between those 2 tracks or whatever it might be. That I think that'd be way too close of a market. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm biased. I don't want to see Dover go anywhere, even if it is just 1 race a season. But
I don't want to see Dover go anywhere either. And it's kind of created a sense of urgency for us to go down to Dover this year for this season's spring race. I think we have to do it. No matter what, we got to make those plans.
Yeah,
You guys ever been to Dover?
Yo, yeah, it's part of my.
No, I've never been.
I'll talk about it later on. It's part of what we'll talk about later on. But yeah, it's
a must see event, dude, for sure.
See, and that's what makes me nervous because I know like the Monster Mile, it's got a cool lore, just a cool track setup. I love the concrete and everything. I want to get down there just in case it does disappear, you know. But thinking about it, what would you guys think about like 1 year going to the fairgrounds, 1 year going to the super speedway or the speedway, you know, like, do you think that's a possibility for NASCAR?
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Like, I think Dover's, you know, if they get one race, and I like what NASCAR is doing as far as trying to shake up the schedule. And the more racetracks you have, you know, to work with, the more on a year to year, you could change it rather than just like being disappointed that Pocono only has one race this year. But think about Pocono only has one race this year, but now that opens up opportunity for not only the next year and the year after that to go to different like I would rather see the schedule change more often rather than be stubborn and hold on to some of these, you know, nostalgic dates that we want these double races to be at. Because I think that the schedule shakeup has worked. I think it is working. I think it's making these drivers,
I agree,
have to up their talent levels a little bit. So I would like to see them rotate tracks, you know, and that this way you could give promoters a more of an opportunity to be like, hey, look at what we had here. Now it's coming here. And like, I don't know. I think that is the direction actually that they're going to go for, is let's have an abundance of places to go. And we'll pick and choose.
Yeah, I mean the super speedway in Nashville produced one hell of a race this year. If you guys remember.
I thought it was great,
and
it was a good event too. It was an NBC event. It was the first race back, so
there was like concerts and stuff going on. And then the fairgrounds is a short track, which we all love. So I mean, as long as the speedway keeps producing like it did this past year, and if the fairgrounds produces like a short track usually produces, then I think that's a hell of a 1-2 punch that city would have.
I tell you what, I was hesitant on the fairgrounds early on when I first heard about it. I'm like, I don't want to see us lose a date for the fairgrounds or whatever. Then I saw the SRX series run there, and that track is such a fast short track. It was super exciting. I need a Cup Series race there, like inject it right into my veins. I'm addicted. I want to see us go there. But I think like just looking back at like the early 2000s, like leaving Rockingham, leaving these places, I wonder if they left for a season, went somewhere else, and then came back the next season, if it would have saved some of these places in the long run, you know, where like you take the year off and then you build anticipation for the next time NASCAR rolls into town.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Oh man, it wasn't here, but now it's this year. Oh,
it's coming back.
Like, yeah.
It's like a touring band, you know, like we'll see the same bands come through our town every couple years, but it's because we haven't seen them in 5 years. We're like, oh, we gotta go see Def Leppard at Montage Mountain. They're coming back. You know,
think about the air show, how excited we get.
Oh, yeah.
Time, you know, and when we hear that that's coming to town, man, like you get excited for it. You look forward to that. So I think that's a good direction to go in.
All right. Well, I just want to touch on that little side tangent about Nashville Fairgrounds and the future possibilities of scheduling and everything. Back to the news. Let's see. Just because it's the off season for NASCAR does not mean there isn't a whole ton of racing going on. In fact, last week, RCR drivers Austin Dillon, Tyler Reddick, and Kaz Gralla all teamed up to run a 2-day endurance race, and they won both their races for the World Racing League. It was down at the Circuit of the Americas. And then just last week, Chandler Smith won the Snowball Derby, one of the biggest late model races in the country. So big congratulations to them.
Yo, was Chandler Smith the ARCA driver who made that save in Pocono? Was that him, or did he win the race?
I think he was the ARCA driver that won the race.
Okay. I've been trying to rack my brain on that guy's name, and then I saw Chandler Smith and I was like, ooh, I think that was it, but I think you're right. I think he's the one who won it.
I think he won.
I think the last guy's name starts with an H, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, it was Corey Haim.
Haim, yeah.
Yeah. He had the awesome save in that ARCA race.
Sorry.
But yeah, big congratulations to the guys doing some racing in the off season. Something interesting happening tomorrow, or today, technically, if you're listening to it after it gets posted on Tuesday. Tuesday, ESPN E60 special is going to feature Bubba Wallace. So that's something to look out for. Always great to see some NASCAR drivers exposed, not exposed, but having ESPN exposure, to a more broad sports audience. What's up, Matt?
Two things there I just want to touch on real quick, and I know we're trying to rat-a-tat-tat through the news here, but I wanted to park on this for a second. Did you guys see how much Twitter blew up the last couple weeks over the F1 series?
I've seen it like trending and stuff like that. I just haven't really been paying attention.
So yesterday was the championship race, and like a whole bunch of nonsense happened, and Twitter exploded. Like people who never think would be into racing were talking about it and posting about it. And I think it's because of that series that was on Netflix that F1 has become like one of the most popular booming sports. So like any kind of exposure to NASCAR on the mainstream is like a good thing. We need that to happen. Like we need Netflix to have a NASCAR documentary style deal like F1 did. Like I want that all over the place.
I tell you what, last season, Motor Trend did, I think it was like a 7-part documentary series where they covered all the major stuff throughout the whole entire season. I'm talking everything. The beginning of Daytona 500 with like the huge fire wreck, all the way going to like COVID shutting everything down to COVID. We're coming back. Like it was a great documentary series. And the problem is, not a lot of people saw it because it's on the Motor Trend network. We need that mainstream Netflix exposure.
The problem is if it's on Motor Trend, people are already there because they're already fans. Like, I want new prospective fans getting their eyes on the sport that we love so much. The second thing, to kind of piggyback off of the Bubba Wallace ESPN feature that I believe Ryan McGee is doing with him, the NBC contract is up like in like a year or two, and there's been a lot of rumblings the past couple days that ESPN's going to try to get back into NASCAR. So just something to watch out for.
That would be pretty interesting because I think not only is NBC up, Fox is also up. I think they both end at the same contract year. So who knows? In a couple of years, we could be watching on ESPN and ABC and I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. Ryan McGee though, ESPN sports writer, radio personality, he's phenomenal. He does a great job. So looking forward to seeing that E60 special tomorrow night with Bubba Wallace. Also, I think isn't there a Chase Elliott documentary coming out on Netflix?
No, it's out. It wasn't a documentary. It was like a little 45-minute short with Dale Jr. Dale Jr. just went with him and drove around Dawsonville. It was good. It was like an hour, a half hour long, something like that. Yeah, it's on Peacock.
Oh, okay, Peacock. See, I always forget about Peacock. I gotta start watching some more stuff. I want to watch Lost Speedways and everything. I've seen a couple episodes on there. It's fantastic, but just another streaming service. It's hard to keep up with all of them. You know what I mean? I feel like a boomer when I say that. Looking to the future, to February, the Clash, Pitbull going to be performing as part of the NASCAR Busch Light Clash event at the Coliseum. What do you guys think about Pitbull performing? I saw, speaking of boomers,
Worldwide,
a lot.
Hey, Mr. Worldwide, dude. Of course we want to have him performing. He
owns a team.
Yeah, he's one of our ambassadors now. And, just like Daniel Suarez with, coming from Mexico and bringing a lot of his fan base and, his own kind of wave of new eyes to the sport. I think Pitbull is doing the same. And to kind of go back to the E60 thing, I think they're more interested because you're getting more people like Alvin Kamara, wearing the NASCAR visor on Sundays.
Oh, yeah.
The Fred Taylors and the Ocho Cinco with their show that they have. Like, I think they're beginning to notice that we are trickling into these other sports worlds, and ESPN's supposed to be the main sports,
worldwide leader. Yeah.
So hey, maybe they're seeing an opportunity here. Hey, if our main sport, NFL football, people are wearing NASCAR visors. Maybe it's something we have to look into. But I love that Pitbull's performing, dude. How do you not get excited for that guy, you know?
And it's going to be like,
Fireball.
I love Timber with Kesha. That's one of my favorite songs. When I hear that, it just puts me in a good mood. It's going down. Here's the thing, though. Everything
The harder they fall.
Timba, everything you said, Eric, I 100% agree with, and that's why I was excited to see Pitbull. He's not only is he doing like a concert, he's doing 45 minutes in between one of the heat races and the A main. So that's like a huge portion of the television time that people are going to tune in to see Pitbull performing live, even if you're not a NASCAR fan. And then because it's such a long performance, I could see people buying a ticket just to go see Pitbull. And then they see a race on top of it because, you know, so I think it's a great decision by NASCAR. Obviously he's a team owner, so he's already deeply connected with the sport. But I thought it was funny. Speaking of boomers, I was on the NASCAR Facebook page when they announced it and everyone's like, who's Pitbull? I'm like, one, how do you not know Mr. Worldwide? You know, like my 60 some year old mother went to see Pitbull before the pandemic broke out with her best friend Luann and had an absolute blast.
Do you know what the real test is? Do you know what the real test is? Dad, if you're listening to this,
yeah.
comment on the post, just yes or no if you know who Pitbull is.
Yeah. Mr. Reilly, let us know. But yeah, people were kind of angry though. Like, why can't they have a country singer? I'm like, you guys get a country singer at every single NASCAR event. Maybe we should broaden our horizons.
Yeah.
Nothing against country, but like I worked in country radio for a decade. You know, I'm kind of sick of it. I want to see Pitbull at a concert in a NASCAR race. You know,
I want somebody that's going to give me energy, get me up out of my seat.
Yeah.
I don't want that's gonna, you know, put me to sleep and talk about a broken heart. You know what I mean? Get me fired up.
You know
that
what?
Comes from three guys who love country music too.
Yeah.
It's just there's nothing wrong with broadening the horizon. We're not the old redneck sport that everyone used to think we were.
And I tell you what, Eric, you made a good point right there, and it made me think of a conversation we had less than 10 minutes ago. M80 at Pocono. Like, it's all about having a good time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't have to be a fan of them to not be able to enjoy it. Like, you can still have a good time, you know? Listen to the beat, bob your head, just pretend like you're having fun, and eventually you will. All right, back to the NASCAR news, some driver news. Landon Castle, one of these journeyman drivers who's just been dying to get a good opportunity, is going to get that opportunity. He's joining Kaulig Racing for the 2022 Xfinity Series season, and I thought this was the most interesting thing. He's being paid entirely by crypto. He's big in the crypto world. His sponsor is a cryptocurrency bank type deal. And I thought that was interesting, just going to show another youthful movement in the sport. And I thought that was pretty interesting. And let's see, the last piece of regular news, Stuart Friesen did a Goodyear tire test for the next gen car on dirt. And I don't know if you guys saw the video. Did you see the video of Stuart Friesen?
Weird. That car, the next gen car, looked so weird on the dirt for some reason.
See, I thought it looked perfect. Like it was sliding around those corners. I thought it looked better than the current Cup car.
It looked heavier, bigger, and clunkier on the dirt than this other like previous gen car did.
Really? See, I felt like it looked more like a dirt car.
Back in the day, man, sports cars used to roll all through the fields and dirt and whatnot. Look at the General Lee.
Yeah, I mean, just to me, like, I think I want to see them run that same test when they have all the kinks out of the car and they could really say, hey, get this car and really drive this track like you would drive it. You know what I mean? You could tell he was babying it around there and just kind of doing I think it looked cool, Whitey, don't get me wrong. I wanted to, you could tell he wasn't going all out in that test.
That's true.
Too, I would imagine, but
that's just them getting tire data too. So I mean,
right.
You know.
I should probably make a clarification before all the gearheads come after me. Yes, I did just call the General Lee a sports car. I know it's a muscle car.
Yeah,
muscle car.
They're gonna be yelling in the Twitter ads.
Yeah,
and the Facebook page. All right, we got some interesting sponsor news. Focus Factor going to be sponsoring Eric Jones for 26 races in 2022. Huge sponsorship for Richard Petty and Eric Jones there. Mahindra, or no, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Menards is building upon their Team Penske sponsorship for 2022. Not only are they sticking with Ryan Blaney, but they're also going to move on to the number 2 car of Austin Cindric. I wonder if they'll continue to support the Wood brothers on top of it. It's going to get confusing with those yellow Menards paint schemes if they're all switching from week to week, but good for Penske retaining some sponsorship there. Big news for Brad Keselowski. Fastenal is going to be joining the number 6 team for RKF. Or RFK. RFK. Oh, they're gonna have to get used to that one. But they'll be sponsoring not only the Chris Buescher number 17, but also Brad Keselowski's number 6 car. So Fastenal expanding their sponsorship. You get all of your supply chain needs taken care of at Fastenal. McDonald's, the Golden Arches, expanding its partnership with 2311 Racing. Not only will they be on Bubba Wallace's car for the Daytona 500, but they'll also be on Kurt Busch's car for some select races too. So McDonald's spending some more money over at 2311, liking what they're seeing. A new sponsor joining Stuart Haas Racing. Mahindra is partnering with Chase Briscoe for a handful of races for the number 14. That red paint scheme looks slick too. So looking forward to those guys. Discount Tire are going to be continuing their sponsorship with Team Penske. A lot of people were wondering if Discount Tire would return. Of course, they're a longtime sponsor with Brad Keselowski in the 2 car. They will stick with Team Penske. And Wheaties just announced today they will sponsor Bubba Wallace for, I believe it's their 40th or probably 50th or 60th anniversary as a cereal brand. So we'll see a orange Wheaties box on a Bubba Wallace car in the near future.
I would assume that would be like the Michael Jordan connection there.
Oh, probably. Yeah. Oh, you want to know what I think it was? Maybe it was the anniversary of when Jordan was on the Wheaties box in the 90s.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Too, I saw on Twitter today.
What's up?
They had the paint scheme, the Wheaties car on Twitter
Did
today.
I didn't see it. How did it look?
It looked very retro. It looked cool. It looked cool. Yeah.
Nice.
I'm gonna have to look it up now. Go ahead.
I'll have to check that out. We got some sad news. Al Unser, who's just a legendary name in all of motorsports, he passed away. And then some sad news for the Earnhardt family. Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s brother, Danny Earnhardt Sr., of course, Dale Jr.'s uncle, has passed away. He worked for Junior Motorsports in the Fab Shop. He was actually just on the Junior Download a couple of months ago. And it's kind of sad. Junior always ends the show like, "Oh, I can't wait to have you back." And that's someone's stories we're never going to hear again. So just unfortunate for that family. But the biggest news of the last 3 weeks, Richard Petty Motorsports sold a majority interest of its company to GMS Racing to form Petty GMS. So now if you're not aware of the way RPM worked, they were partially owned, I believe it was 80 or 90% owned by an investment banker firm. So that investment bankers, they sold their stake to GMS. They're keeping the Petty name. Richard's still involved. Eric Jones is keeping his ride in the 43. Ty Dillon, who was going to be running I believe the 96, is now going to be driving the 42, which was Lee Petty's number back in the day. And just an interesting thing. We got a resident Eric Jones fan in the house. Eric, what did you think about the news at RPM, now RPM GMS, or Richard or Petty GMS?
Well, at first I was kind of irritated because I thought he was just kind of selling off his other charters, like the Petty Wear charter and stuff.
That was involved in it, yeah.
And I'm like, man, what are you doing? Like, why not get your team a teammate? Why not use those charters and get a second car and do all? And I'm like, it was kind of like emotional off of one Twitter article I read before I really got the details. And I was kind of upset at first, and then you guys kind of talked me off the ledge in a way once more information started coming about how the deal was going So you guys definitely changed my perspective on the whole thing, for sure.
I tell you what, I don't like about the current NASCAR news cycle and the way things seem to work, where one week they will give you a very vague piece of news, and then they'll tell you more details next Tuesday. You know, that's what delayed this podcast. We were waiting for those more details on this Petty deal for that Tuesday, because 2 weeks ago they said, oh, GMS bought a majority stake of Richard Petty Motorsports, and they left it at that. And we're like, well, what's going to happen? What's going on here? You know? So of course you're going to jump to conclusions. You're like, oh, he's selling his charters. They don't care about the team, like all this stuff. And it seems like it's going to be a good thing, you know?
Now I know that. And I could see that because it was, I'm pretty sure it was Medallion Bank was the, what was that shareholder there, because they sponsored a majority of Eric Jones's cars last season. So Richard Petty finally came out, and I know I've said it before on this show that I think Petty never really cared about winning races in that car. He basically was using it for his name and to just make money. Yeah, and
just
finally
by on the name.
And, he's getting older now, and I think he's ready to let that go and let someone else that really cares about the sport, really knows about the sport, and really wants to win, be an investor instead of just a bank that wants to make money off of their investment, you know? So GMS, they don't want to make money off of this. They want to win races. They want to grow this team and, put a product on the racetrack where they could contend every week. And, I don't think we've ever seen that in the last, 10, 20 years in that 43 car.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just been a car that goes around that about, that's iconic, but the investors that were in that didn't really care about winning races. They knew as long as they were on that 43 car and associated with Petty, their initial investment was going to work out for them. And I'm glad that that's finally out there in the open, and they're changing that mentality around that race team. So now I know last year I was like, hey, get Eric Jones a teammate. Now he has a teammate in Ty Dillon. And I'm excited to see what's in store for that 42 and 43 on the racetrack, especially with the next gen.
Yeah, I always assumed the way the structuring of the ownership with RPM was that, it was an investment. They didn't care about winning races. They just wanted to capitalize on their profit.
Now it's like I almost feel bad for Bubba. I almost feel bad for
Eric Almirola.
You know what I mean? Because they were on teams that didn't give a shit.
Yeah. It's depressing.
Oh, dude, they wasted how many years of their racing career, on a team that wasn't, we always speculate, oh, is Brad Keselowski only getting the good equipment here? Or is so-and-so holding back on equipment, or who's getting this? And that was really, an opening through a doorway of yes, that does happen. There are teams out there that, are putting the best product on the racetrack because they are trying to save money and give their investors a better opportunity rather than spend it on new engineers, maybe wind tunnel and all that kind of stuff to get a better product. So overall, at first I was upset, but now I'm kind of looking forward to having a teammate and, seeing what those two young, drivers could maybe bring out of that Petty camp now.
Yeah, and GMS, they had a lot of momentum in the lower series too. I mean, they were winning races and whatnot. So they know how to do it. And now they're making the big step up into NASCAR. They've got Eric Jones, who's one of the more talented guys in the field. So Eric, I told you when the news first broke, man, I'd be super excited if I were you. That's awesome.
No, you guys definitely changed my thought process on that. Like I said, it's Whitey, you're right. As the details come out, you're just kind of left to speculate, and that's when the rumors go, and that's when the internet, Twitter fans will say this or that, and it's you kind of have to pump the brakes until that following actual press conference comes out on it with the details. But I'm excited for next year.
Yeah, and I think just like what Matt said, GMS has been a strong contender in the truck series for a couple of years now. When big cup guys like Chase Elliott go down, they drive a GMS truck and usually they go out and win a race, So GMS is looking to go out there, get some
You look
trophies.
at Kulig, you know what I mean? You look at Trackhouse,
Yeah.
some of these that, you know, are very similar to what GMS is doing by getting into the Cup Series. And those other teams ran really, really well. So
Yeah.
It's definitely got me excited for next year.
And I think one of the most interesting parts too, and I didn't know this about the one owner of GMS, Maury Gallagher. He's a successful businessman. He created Allegiant Airways, which is a budget airline. We use it to get to Daytona from here. We'll fly from Allentown, Lehigh Valley down to Daytona. And so he's already a successful businessman. He knows how to run a business and turn a profit. And he wants to go out there and compete and win races. So he's going to be spending the money the right way to accomplish those goals. And I'm looking forward to that. Even Richard Petty said it right out of his mouth. He goes, you know, we're going to a better facility than we've been in a long time. And they've been down at RCR's campus for a long time in one of their buildings down there. Of course, like they don't have the full broad, access to RCR's equipment and the engine shop and all that stuff, but like they still had good stuff. And if they're saying it's better up at GMS's shop, then that's more promising right there.
It can't be cleaner than RFK's facility.
Oh my God.
Holy shit, man. That picture.
Yeah. Well, so that's the Penske mentality. If you don't know what we're talking about, Brad Keselowski the other day, he posted a picture that they redid the floors at Roush Fenway, RFK now. And just those little attention to details. That's why I think Brad Keselowski is going to at least come close or win a race next year, because that's the kind of stuff you want. That's the kind of stuff that Roger Penske instills in people too. Like when Penske bought Indianapolis Motor Speedway, he walked every inch of that whole entire property, marking things that need to be fixed and everything like that. And I don't know if you guys ever saw some pictures from inside the Penske racing shop, but every time I do, it looks fake. It looks like a video game because everything is so clean and perfect. And you have cars on jack stands and stuff. It almost looks like a model car diorama, and it's real cars. And like, I don't know. I think that Penske mentality is going to do Brad well moving over to Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. You can check out the picture we're talking about right now at Bump the Letter and Run Pod on Twitter at Bump and Run Pod. I tweeted that the other day. But yeah, that's all I have for NASCAR news over the last 3 weeks. We had a whole lot to cover, and we covered it all. And now we move on to the fun stuff, I guess. I mean, I think NASCAR news is fun, but we got some open topics. Of course, we don't have any racing to talk about, but we still have some racing to talk about. And I thought, well, with all these sponsorship news, Mahindra coming in, we got Fastenal doubling up their sponsorship, McDonald's, all that stuff. I started thinking, like, what are your top 5 best all-time NASCAR sponsors? It could be a car, it could be a series. Just what's a company, when you see the logo or you see a car, like you think NASCAR, you buy it because of NASCAR, like those kind of deals. I'll go first, just with my number 5. I'm not going to give you the whole list. I figure we could go round robin. We'll give our 5, our 4, our 3, our 2, and 1. My number 5, someone that is spending more money next year with 2311, McDonald's. One, just an iconic American brand that's been in our sport for decades. Despite a long losing streak, almost 20 some years that they didn't win a race, and they're still putting money into the sport. That's what I love. I love to see a sponsor that sees value in the sport, stays for a long time. And I'm glad they're expanding their sponsorship with 2311 in 2022. And I look forward to getting those golden arches on Sundays in the regular season as a tradition. That's what I do.
Love them GAs.
Oh, yeah. How about you, Eric? What was your number 5 sponsor?
Number 5 for me, I just went like a whole, like the series. I went the Winston. Winston to me seems just NASCAR to me. It just screamed hearing the stories of the people around me in my area talking about Pocono, how they would just hand out, there it is. They would
NASCAR wins
hand
the
out,
cup.
packs of Winstons, and it was just, to me, that's when the sport was still filled with a bunch of the older drivers that were in their 40s and their it just was a little bit more my style of
You had Dick Trickle firing
I
up.
was going to say, who's the driver who was smoking cigs in the car?
All of them. I mean, all of them. Dick Trickle was known for it. Dick Trickle was known for he would have
he had a cigarette lighter installed in his car.
Yeah, and he would always carry around a suitcase, and in that suitcase was always just a pack of cigarettes.
It's his briefcase for the office.
I'm pretty sure it was Dick Trickle. Someone correct me in the comments if you've heard that. Dale Jr. Download has told that story a bunch of times. I'm pretty sure it was Dick Trickle, but yeah, I mean, smoking Winston's going 180 miles an hour.
Dude, they were around for 33 years. It was the Winston, they sponsored it. So not only were they there as far as popular and got people to the racetrack via maybe an addictive tobacco product, which we don't condone, but it was an era that, to me, I resonate with NASCAR, and for 33 years, the longevity of them staying in it, you have to respect that.
And you know what? They did cool promotions. Like they had the Winston Million, where if you could win 3 out of the 4 major crown jewels, you won $1 million. I think Bill Elliott was the first one to do it in the first season, and then it wasn't until the late 90s when Jeff Gordon was able to do it. Then they had the No Bull Million. Where I have the car from Dale Sr.'s last win at Talladega. He won him and a fan $1 million each by making that last lap pass and stuff. Just cool little promotions, cool little activation that Winston used to do in the sport. I thought that's a great one. That's a great number 5. How about you, Matt? What's your number 5 sponsor?
Well, before I do that, not a sponsor in this series yet, but eventually I'm hoping Polar can at the very least be a sponsor of this show.
Matt, what flavor of Polar are you drinking this week?
I am drinking a lemon again this week.
Hey.
Just hold on. Delicious, refreshing, 100% natural.
So I actually thought about your lemon Polars today on my lunch break, Matt, because at my regular work, I have this little tiny mini fridge that fits 6 cans or 4 bottles of water. And I went to the grocery store on lunch because I ran out of Polar. And I'm staring at the Polar selection at my local grocery store. And I'm like, well, last time I got lime, should I go with the lemon? I was thinking, Matt was talking that lemon up. But then I saw ruby grapefruit. I go,
it's good.
Let me try this ruby grapefruit. I picked one of those up on my lunch break. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Polar, always a great drink. They're not paying us to say it, but hopefully someday they will because we love the product anyways.
My number 5 is M&M's or Mars.
Good,
the Mars
good
products. So they've been in NASCAR for decades. So one thing I kind of found myself while I was doing my list is I kind of tied a lot of these in because of their paint schemes, but also the broader scope of what these sponsors meant to NASCAR over the years and their connection. So, I mean, with M&M's and Mars, first of all, they've had so many different cool colored paint schemes. Doesn't matter who the driver is. The paint schemes have always been awesome. And I always think they're so important to the sport just because they bring in those young fans, the kids. What are they going to be drawn to when they come to their first NASCAR race? Oh, mommy, daddy, look, it's the M&M's car.
Yeah.
And hopefully, that makes them fans for life. So that's why I think that they've had such a huge impact on the sport. So we'd be remiss if we didn't consider M&M's one of these best sponsors.
Yeah, I just think about all the little kids I see at a racetrack running around with a yellow M&M's Kyle Busch hat. I mean, even when we
went a role model.
Yeah, even when we went to the Daytona 500 a couple years ago, our buddy Tom, that's the first thing he bought was a yellow M&M's hat. And, just he gets those kids, the yellow and the M&M's, it pulls those kids in.
So Matt, I also had M&M's down in my list as well. My list, not in any particular order as far as 5 through 1 goes per se.
Yeah, same for me.
I had M&M's down there at that number 3 on my list because like you said, when it comes to kids, when I was younger, I remember having that number 36 Ken Schrader, little toy car, and I remember playing with that thing all the time. I don't know where I got it, how I got it. It's one of those deals where you end up having it. You're like, oh, and I remember going back. Like, if I want to think NASCAR, I think of that M&M's, 36 little car I used to play in my little sandbox with.
Yep.
So I definitely have M&M's on my list as well.
All right, well, we'll just say that was your number 4.
Yeah.
And just move your 4 to 3. My number 4, similarly to you, all about the paint scheme when I was a little kid playing with those cars. It's the Tide Ride. Just thinking over the years, the Tide paint scheme is just one of those iconic paint schemes where when I see Tide, I think about Darrell Waltrip, Ricky Rudd, Ricky Craven's car back in the 90s and the late 80s there. And I was super excited when they came back to sponsor Eric Jones for the Bristol Dirt Race. And I hope they keep coming back because there's just something about that yellow and orange and white, and especially on Eric Jones with that petty blue added in. I just thought it was an awesome looking car. I've been looking for the die cast. It's out now. I've been trying to find it in a Walmart or Target. Every time I go, I check out the toy section looking for that Eric Jones Bristol Dirt car. But yeah, just one of those childhood memories that I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah. How about you, Matt? What was your number 4?
Go ahead, Eric. I think Eric had a comment.
Whitey, honest to God, like most of my, picks stem from like Hot Wheels.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
My next one is the Hot Wheels. And it was Kyle Petty drove the 44 Hot Wheels car. And like I said, it was that 44 Hot Wheels car, that 36
with
M&M's car.
The loop on it,
With the Hot Wheels, with that red and the yellow, like with the white and the blue. It was just so, to me, iconic because the little package that they came in, that was the exact scheme that was on the car. And those two that I remember playing with the most as a kid, as far as like, Hot Wheels cars go. So that M&M's and that Hot Wheels, just for me, like, it's not a major one. It's not a big one that everyone knows that's been around for, on major sponsors as of late. But it's one for me that really, resonates with me as far as the sport of NASCAR goes.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hot Wheels was on a car this past year, though.
I think Ricky Stenhouse ran it.
No, Tyler Reddick. It was really? For a Cat promotion. Cat and Hot Wheels teamed up for I forget what the video series was called on YouTube. You could look up Hot Wheels and Caterpillar and it'll come up. But yeah, they were making giant dirt jumps with Caterpillar lifts and stuff. And then they were launching cars off them. It was really cool.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
All right, Matt. Give us your number 4 and your number 3. Then I'll do my number 3, and I think we'll be back on the lead lap, all of us. So.
So my number 4 goes to Budweiser. Not just because I'm biased for the 88 or actually the 8 with Dale Jr., but it also goes back to the 11, that iconic red and white Darrell Waltrip number 11 Budweiser car.
That Junior Johnson car.
The Junior, yep. Mm-hmm. So it was, the most popular scheme / sponsor for a decade when Junior drove it. You can't tell the history of NASCAR sponsors without including Budweiser. And I just think it was a huge draw for a lot of our fans too. A lot of our fans probably, a lot of guys coming to a track for the first time. I don't know who I'm going to root for. Well, I love Budweiser, so I'm rooting for that car there.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's a huge impact that it had on the sport. It's got to be Budweiser.
Yeah, I was, I don't know if any of you guys have Coors. After I made my list, I was like, I left Coors off. Well, like, I feel like Coors, Budweiser, both kind of on the same level of like just iconics where like, back in the day it was Coors and Bill Elliott, Coors Lite, and then that silver bullet car in the 90s, so like, yeah, beer brands, man. Great sponsors, honestly. Because like you said, you go to the track, you don't know who to root for. Well, I like Budweiser,
That leads me, perfect segue into, it was my number 2, but because we're already talking about it, I'll flip flop my 2 and 3
All right.
into Miller.
Miller beer.
simply because Miller Lite is my beer of choice. It's what I love to drink. So of course I'm going to make that connection, but you also have got the iconic paint schemes with Rusty Wallace, that throwback Miller black and gold car that everyone knows. You know, you can picture it right now without even looking at it. And again, because you're either a Coors fan, a Miller fan, or a Bud fan. When you're talking about light beer, you're going to draw more people in. So I think Miller is another iconic sponsor that any alcohol really, is going to draw NASCAR fans in.
I'm going to go slightly off topic here. Do you think that sponsors could, I don't know how to say it, sponsors could benefit from a more simplistic paint scheme? Because right now I'm thinking about the Budweiser car. It was just plain red, had like black stripes. It said Budweiser, even the Junior Johnson one, plain red, white hood, just says Bud, Same thing with that Miller Genuine Draft in the 90s, that Rusty Wallace too, just black, gold number, gold font for Genuine Draft. But it still sticks in your head because it's so simple. It's so iconic. It was like kind of like, I don't know, I think it was a couple months ago. We were talking about the Dale Earnhardt Sr. GM Goodwrench car and how iconic that paint job was. And Eric, you said like, it was kind of a shitty paint job. It was just black with a silver stripe, but it's that simplicity where you're focusing on the brand at that point. Do you think maybe now like paint schemes are a little too complicated where it kind of takes your eyes away from the sponsor? Does that sound crazy to you guys? Or
I agree.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think it sounds crazy. I think we tend to like the simpler paint schemes just as who we are as fans, I think. But no, I agree 100% with that because I'm thinking of one of the cars that I love the most was it was an Xfinity car, but even in Cup at the time, it wasn't a big deal, but he ended up turning his career around. I loved Kyle Busch's number 54 Monster Energy car, flat black with just the green Monster logo
on it.
And then the Martin Truex, the 78 car, matte black, orange. And like to
Denver
me,
mattress.
And it just said Furniture Row, right?
Yeah.
Loved those cars. So
yeah, no, I agree.
Yes, I agree with that.
I prefer, instead of simple, I prefer the term clean.
It is a clean. It's a clean paint scheme. No, I agree. All right. Let's see where we're. My number 3. Not so much a car sponsor, just an iconic sponsor, kind of like Eric's Winston sponsor, Sunoco. We wouldn't have races without Sunoco race fuel. It's one of those sponsors where it's super easy to support. Whenever I have a chance, which is 90% of the time when I need gas, I'm going to go to a Sunoco. Unless I'm in an area that I don't really know, I'm like, oh, I need it now. I'm going to stop here. Other than that, I'm stopping at Sunoco for a splash of race fuel, and then I'm taking off. So I feel like I had to put them on the list of great NASCAR sponsors because it's easy. And you remember like probably 15 years ago when gas was like, I know people are complaining about gas prices now, but when it was like the 2008 housing collapse and we were paying like $5.50 a gallon and Sunoco's like, hey, put a Sunoco sticker on your car and we might give you some free fuel. What a great promotion that was. Simple, easy. And then all of a sudden you have all these cars with a NASCAR Sunoco contingency sticker on it. Just free advertising.
Yeah, free advertising.
So I had to put him on there for that. And I think that puts us on the lead lap for number 2. So, Matt, give us your number 2 sponsor.
So, like I said, I tried making a connection with these sponsors and like what it means to the fans and what was their overall impact. And this one might be a little surprising, might be a little off the cuff for you guys, but I went with Bass Pro. I feel like this sponsor is important because a lot of, not everyone, but a grand majority of our fans are outdoorsmen, and they can make that connection. And again, it's one of those things where you walk into a race, you don't have a guy to root for. You pick out, Bass Pro, I love fishing, or I love hunting, or I shop there all the time. I'm rooting for that guy.
Yeah.
And so just again, the connection with the common man is what I love about Bass Pro, and I had to add them to this list.
And they're another one that's been around for a long, long time. They've been sponsoring various cars since the 90s. They sponsor the Bristol Night Race. So, yeah, very important sponsor to our sport. And
they're in all 3 series too.
And usually they'll sponsor multiple different teams at the same time, which I think is really great for just NASCAR in general. How about you, Eric? What was your number 2?
My number 2 goes to Interstate Batteries.
I was going to put them on my list too.
Oh, bro, when I'll see that truck driving around with the 18 on the door.
Yeah.
Nuts, dude. I put my fist out the window and I'm like, hell yeah, right? Because how do you not get excited when you see that Interstate Batteries truck driving around your hometown? You know what I mean?
I see it a lot too.
So in our local area, there's an Interstate Batteries right next to a bar that we've all frequented for at least a decade now. Bruise Brothers. Not that the bar matters, but even before I was a NASCAR fan, on a Friday night, we're going to Bruise Brothers. We're gonna get a couple drinks in us. I'd look at that Interstate Batteries logo. I just think NASCAR. You know, I would think about Joe Gibbs Racing. I didn't even know it was Joe Gibbs Racing deal. I just knew like, oh, it's like that 18 that I think was Terry or Bobby Labonte and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, that's a fucking NASCAR brand right there. You know. So that's a good one. I was thinking about that one for my list too.
I almost had it on my list. It was on the OLI, on the outside looking in.
So I am my number 2, and really it should be my number 1 in my heart. But it goes to Mellow Yellow. Eric, like you said, with Kyle Petty and the Hot Wheels, I'm just thinking Kyle Petty, the Mellow Yellow car in the 90s, being an offshoot of a beloved movie of mine. When I was a little kid, I watched Days of Thunder on VHS every single day. I didn't watch NASCAR, but I watched that movie all the time. I'd play with my little stock cars and I'd recite lines from the movie and all that stuff. When I was a little kid, I drank Mellow Yellow soda. Every time I saw it, I asked my mother to get it for me, if it was in a soda machine or what. And it was kind of a rare soda up in the north. You didn't really see it that often. You still don't see it that often. And to this day, if I see Mellow Yellow on tap, which they have it at Pancheros in Scranton, when I get a burrito, I get a Mellow Yellow every time. When I would go to Hardee's, I'd get a Mellow Yellow. When I race iRacing, I put this Mellow Yellow hat on to pretend like it's my sponsor. I have Kyle Petty, the cardboard cutout, in the Mellow Yellow car in the background. I don't know if anyone ever noticed that one. When I think about the reach of a NASCAR sponsorship, getting those little consumer kids, I think Mellow Yellow did it better than anybody in the 90s, at least for me. I love it.
Hell yeah, brother.
How about you? What's your number 2?
Matt,
Me?
Yeah.
I already told you my number 2. I'm on my number 1.
Oh, okay. All right, Matt, what's your number 1?
My number 1, I'm contractually obligated to pick Fastenal.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I didn't know if you were going to do it. Matt is you're the general manager of a region for Fastenal. So yeah, that's why I especially made sure to bring up Fastenal during the NASCAR news and the Brad Keselowski sponsorship. I want to know.
The one difference between Fastenal and all the other sponsors here on this list is that Fastenal pays me, so I had to pick them.
Completely understandable. It made me wonder though. Now that they're on the car, are you going to be a Brad Keselowski fan? He's gone from Penske.
And listen, I'll answer that for you, Matt, because we've been in our text message group. I think there's been a little bit of love for Brad coming from that cell phone over there. I know that for sure.
I've always rooted for since I came on board with Fastenal. I've always rooted for whoever drove that 17. You know, the last couple of years it's been Chris Buescher. So, yeah. I mean, if Brad's doing well, I would love to see Fastenal back in victory lane. It's been a long, long time. So, I mean, for that reason, sure.
All right, nice. How about you, Eric? What is your number 1 sponsor?
For me, it is to me it's iconic. It was the first paint scheme that I saw win a race live. Home Depot.
Yeah.
To me, that like as a young kid, like I grew up, you know, my father does a lot of stuff working with his hands, so I'm constantly going and tools and this. So like Home Depot to me, that, you know, the bucket, their commercials, like just do it, like all the stuff about
song,
like and like I said, the first race that I saw, like Joey Logano won in the 20 Home Depot car at Pocono.
Okay.
So
I was expecting it to be a Tony Stewart win. That's surprising to me.
So that just resonated, you know, with me a little bit, you know, getting into the sport.
Yeah.
My true number one though, I just left it out because I think it was like just like you guys said before, Matt had brought it up, was Budweiser to me. I'm a huge Bud heavy drinker.
Yeah.
I just think when you think Bud, you know, you think of, you know, Earnhardt, and you think of all like just those jackets, the big fucking red jacket that says Bud on the front.
Yeah.
Like it just screams NASCAR to me. But you know,
for people at home that don't know, a Bud Heavy is just a regular Budweiser, as opposed to Bud Light. It's a Bud Heavy. In case you didn't know, I didn't want to throw anyone off on that one.
And they always had the best commercials too.
Always. Oh yeah, with the
90s
Clydesdales and stuff.
Always
the Budweiser frogs. You had what was it? Spuds McKenzie, the dog.
And I love you too. Here's the football.
Those were those Budweiser commercials. I thought those were Coors ones. I don't know. Those
for you, they would go like, "Hey, this is
Bud's for you." Yeah.
Oh yeah. That was Budweiser Real Men of Genius too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Real Men of Genius.
My dad, if I had to
Here's
guess,
to you, Mr. NASCAR Podcast Man. Mr. NASCAR Podcast Man.
if I had to guess, my dad would pick Budweiser as well. The guy probably has stock in Bud Light.
Oh yeah.
Yo, yeah, loves Bud Light.
All right. So I'm last, right? Okay. I went with, I don't so much, cause I know you guys don't like Richard Petty. Matt, especially his whole family, I think hates Richard Petty.
I don't hate him. I just don't think he's all he's cracked up to be. Go ahead.
But that STP logo.
Yeah, you can't deny that.
I can't see.
As much as I know, I feel the same way kind of as Matt does as well.
Yeah.
Regardless of that, if you see that logo,
like
yes.
I think Richard Petty, I think NASCAR. When I see Richard Petty, I see STP's logo on his hat. You know, his giant cowboy hat. That's just what I associate him with. When I see the little STP logo on a thing of fucking fuel cleaner, you know, I think about Richard Petty and NASCAR, the 70s big giant Dodge Daytonas. You know, even though I wasn't alive for that, that's where my mind goes. I think STP and NASCAR are so synonymous with each other. It's absolutely insane. It kind of makes me sad that they don't sponsor Richard Petty Motorsports as much these days as they have in the past. Even when I listen to the Stone Temple Pilots, I think about Richard Petty. You know, you see an STP t-shirt. I'm like, oh, is that the Stone Temple Pilots or is that a fan of motorsports? I can't tell. You know, it's just so synonymous.
Your point, though, like when you go to, you know, your local auto store, you know, you see that oil there, you see that, you know, the cleaner, you see that STP. It's like, bam, automatically you go right to Richard Petty and NASCAR. And to me, one of them that almost made my list, and it made my list of schemes that I really liked earlier in the season when we were doing the show, was the Valvoline car. To me, you know, that paint scheme, it was like you said, Whitey, it was simple, couple little stripes on the side, the
just
red,
blue, red, and white.
Like it was just it was clean. It was very clean, and like, and they've been around forever too. So like those two I kind of put like, you know, right next to one another in a way of like, the minute I see anything Valvoline,
You're thinking Mark Martin and NASCAR in the 90s.
I almost had Valvoline on my list.
Yeah. Maybe in a couple of weeks, in a future show, we'll do like most iconic paint schemes or something too. Maybe hit some of the ones that we missed here. But yeah, Valvoline.
My love for him over this past season, like he ran a couple paint schemes, those old Valvoline schemes on his 24 car, and it just looked clean, like no matter what it was, like it's a clean looking paint scheme.
Bowman runs it too.
Bowman ran one.
Did you just say that? Yeah.
No, we didn't mention Bowman before you, but yeah, he ran a nice Valvoline paint scheme. Someone you wouldn't expect, Parker Kligerman, in iRacing at least. I don't know if he ever rode this one in the Cup Series when he was doing his part-time deal, but he had a really cool Valvoline paint scheme where, we're used to those red and blue stripes. He did the stripes, but they were red and blue V's making up the stripes. I just thought that was such a cool like twist on it, or it looked old school, but it had a new school flair to it. I thought that was real cool. Yeah, I agree with you, man. Anytime I see Valvoline, I'm thinking NASCAR too. I'm thinking Mark Martin, really.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this is just the top 5 we thought off of the top of our head. There's other great sponsors like Hooters. You think Hooters with, going back to Alan Kawicki, Chase Elliott now, Caterpillar, my guy Tyler Reddick, going back to the 90s with Ward Burton and all the different drivers that drove the Caterpillar car. There's some real iconic brands that have been around for a long, long time. And I think if we sat down and thought of it some more, we could probably do a list of 20 each and not really cross each other. Kodak.
Feel free to throw your favorite sponsors in the comments.
Shell, Pennzoil. Let us know in the comments of the YouTube video. Let us know
next week
on Facebook. Let us know. We'll give you a shout out. We'll read what your top ones are. Napa was a huge one for a long, long time.
I didn't want to go biased there.
Well, yeah, but even going back to the DEI, so tons and tons of great sponsors that have really been sticking with the sport for a long, long time. Hardee's, I don't know if they've done a car in a long time, but like when I think about Hardee's, I think about that Cale Yarborough scheme, and again, Days of Thunder. That Days of Thunder, man, it really made an impression on me as a consumer, as a kid.
Well, it hit us at that right age to get us into it,
And let's see. We're getting a little late on time, so I'm gonna skip this one for next week. Well, let's all do them. We'll do the whole thing. So we just discussed brandings on cars, but I was kind of thinking, what about branding as a driver themselves? The other day I was watching some pro wrestling clips, and I was thinking about how like pro wrestlers have their characters and their personas. And it got me thinking, do you think that drivers should take a note from pro wrestling? Now, I'm not saying like, oh, make some stuff up and create a character, but like kind of play into some of the things that make you unique. Like my example, Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch is already hated. He's got that rowdy persona.
He's got the villain persona.
He is. He's the bad guy. He reminds me of like Ric Flair back in the day, where Ric Flair is a bad guy, but you can't deny how good he is. He's just a great wrestler. Kyle Busch is just a great driver. Could you imagine the fans and the hatred he would get if Kyle Busch came out in like a big Ric Flair robe with like the 2019 NASCAR championship belt around his waist?
Dude, well, already, and like you nailed it with comparing him to the Ric Flairs of the world, because during driver intros, he already comes out and he says boo himself. He goes, come on, let me hear it.
Yeah,
and
boo.
Then boo, and then the whole crowd boos, right? Like, so he loves that. That feeds Kyle Busch. Imagine him coming around on his robe and it just says boo on the back of it, dude. Like,
turns around.
Yeah.
See, I was thinking how.
So, Whitey, you posed that question to us in our group chat through text the other day.
Yeah.
And my initial response to you guys was no, because I don't want gimmicks in our sport. We're a sport. We should be taken seriously.
Yeah.
But one, after I got to think about it and you threw out like the Kyle Busch example, it made me think. I was like, okay, I see what you're saying. Two, we can't take ourselves too seriously. self-deprecation is important.
Yeah.
And three, I like where your head's at as far as not creating storylines and you know having Matty DiBenedetto get Stone Cold stunned through a table and shit like that. But like
maybe
actual physical characteristics that people. What's the word I'm trying to like? It resonates with them. So Dale Sr. It wasn't a prop; it was his mustache.
Yeah,
but
like that iconic look,
iconic mustache, or the goggles that he wore inside the race car with the open mask.
Richard Petty's sunglasses and the cowboy hat.
1,000%. So I mean, just to bring more personality to the sport, I can see why we would want to do something like that. I think one of you guys had a great hypothetical for like Slick Willie B.
Yeah.
You know, with the slick back hair, he kind of
dude. Like every Sunday, you see William Byron just come out slicked hair
with a leather jacket on, like.
People would be so confused. Like, what is this all about?
He has a name tag says Slick Willie B on it.
Yeah.
Like, once you see that guy roll into to the drivers meeting, you're like, oh shit!
Okay.
Like,
yeah,
Blaney's already a pretty boy, but like he should lean into like he's done the Fu Manchu a few times as like probably a joke. Lean into it. You know what I mean? Like throw that hair out, lean into it, and get an identification about yourself. You know what I mean? It like when people see that, they know exactly who you are.
Like sell your personality a little bit more. I feel like the guys in the 80s and 90s kind of did that, but very subtly, you know, like Dale Earnhardt with the mustache. Like I remember there's one picture of Dale Earnhardt where he shaved his mustache. He just looks silly, you know, because you're so used to it. I saw a picture of Richard Petty the other day where he didn't have his glasses and cowboy hat on. I was like,
it's hard to recognize him.
I couldn't pick him off the street without that hat and cowboy hat and glasses, you know? So like, I was just like thinking like, what can drive, because that's a big complaint with a lot of the generational fans where they're like, oh, drivers these days don't have any personality, you know?
Well, that also helps too. Like, you know, people like, oh, like how do you resonate with a certain driver, you know? And maybe like you said, Whitey, like big pro wrestling fans. So like, hey, promote yourself a little bit. Give the fans something to latch on to. And like, just think of the merchandise that would come out of that, you know, like a Slick Willie B. Like just like in football, like I'm a Jaguars fan, and you know, we had a quarterback, Gardner Minshew, on our team who was like just a rock star. He was a rock star, and like everyone in the stands were rocking fake mustaches and wearing like cut off jean shorts. Cause
he had a cool flow. He just had a cool look, you know?
Exactly. And that generates excitement and that generates, you know, money and merchandise, and, you know, and you see one person do that, you know, then another one does it. And then now it's like, now those fans, it gives you something to maybe talk shit at the racetrack about and go back and forth. And
you would start seeing fans dress like them too.
You
know what I mean?
Exactly. You'd see people coming in with their Slick Will jackets on, you know?
I want to make a Slick Willie B leather jacket now.
I feel like that's a t-shirt idea for our future t-shirt store. Once things really start popping off on the podcast, we'll sell some Slick Will t-shirts.
Sponsored by Polar.
Sponsored by Polar. We'll put Polar on the side. But yeah, I don't know. I was just thinking about that. And we'll talk about it a little bit more next week, or not next week, but next show, because the next show I want to do, how did we find our drivers? You know, what about the drivers we like drew us in? You know, because I have a couple of examples why I became a Tyler Reddick fan, and part of it had to do not only with his driving style and the aggressiveness, but an altercation he had. And I'll leave it at that. We'll expand on it more next episode. But I'm just thinking, like, you know, maybe taking something off the track and playing it up a little bit. You know, like we talked about Slick Will. He could have been pissed that Tyler Reddick booted him at the Roval. You know, Reddick could have played into that too. Like, hey, I'll knock anyone out of the way. You know, like shit like that.
And Earnhardt did. You know what I mean? They were friends off, you know, the racetrack,
Great
but they
friends.
made it seem like they hated each other.
Yeah, the
But
fans hated each other.
It was all right. It was all a money making, like you said,
It's
it was
a gimmick.
almost like, yeah. But it wasn't as far as like Matt's saying, where like you make
It's
too
fabricated.
much it's fabricated.
Yeah, no.
But like you look at it now, this sport is more than just racing, and it's going that direction the way it is as far as TV deals and entertainment.
Yeah.
Like you're going to see that they're going to look more towards the entertainment side of it than the actual racing side of it. So why not, as a driver, take advantage of that? Hey, if you're not going to give me what I want in my race car on the racetrack, well, then I'm going to take whatever I can from your entertainment value side and make money that way. So, yeah,
I tell you what, I came around this season to Alex Bowman. I was never a big Bowman fan. I thought he was kind of vanilla and stuff. And then I started seeing him pop up on this YouTube channel that I watch every now and then. I don't know if you guys ever saw the YouTube channel Cletus McFarland. He's down in Florida.
Yeah.
So if you don't know, you're listening at home. Cletus McFarland has a YouTube channel. He's all about mullets. He kind of plays up the redneck thing. They're down in Florida, but they tune cars. They used to put turbos on everything. And now they have this track. They bought a short track down there, a little tiny quarter-mile track called the Freedom Factory. They built it up. It's just this big spectacle. And every month or two, they'll have like a gimmick race where they'll get, 25 Crown Victoria decommissioned police cruisers, put nitrous in them, put a roll cage in them, and then they'll go out and race them. And they'll do like the 24 hours of lame mullets or 2.4 hours of lame mullets.
Awesome.
And Alex Bowman became friends with Cletus McFarland. He would come and do those races. And I'd see him on the races, and I'm like, oh, Alex Bowman's kind of funny. Like, he can take himself, he's not so serious,
Self-deprecating.
Yeah. Even Kurt Busch joined him this past race. He raced with him and Von Gittin Jr. They were down at the Freedom Factory racing. Larry McReynolds, who's on my shirt today. Larry Mack goes down and does the commentary for all of the pay-per-view events for Cletus McFarland. So
Whitey, the entire podcast, I've been trying to figure out what was on your shirt.
Who this old man on my shirt is?
About a half hour ago, I noticed that it was Larry Mack.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you guys might have even saw me laughing like off to the side. I was like, that's fucking Larry Mack on Whitey's chest right now. That's awesome. That shirt is fantastic.
Yep, it's Larry Mack with a Texaco shirt on. Old school, like 90s, with his glasses, his headset.
American flag.
There's an American flag, and then there's some fighter jets flying off from the other side. I think the microphone's blocking it. You can't, but yeah. So you can get these on Larry McReynolds' website, his personal website.
Awesome.
But yeah, just like those little things, like going out and doing some crazy stuff to kind of like,
I think these drivers are realizing that self-promoting is maybe they're going to have to put the work in and not just let their team and all of that try to find sponsors. You look at the, Brandon Brown and how his commercials that he made were awesome.
Yeah, he's doing the used car salesman thing, selling himself as a brand.
I think the drivers saw that, they realized this, and hey, maybe
they're like, hey, we need to do this.
You would think in the golden age of social media too, it would be so easy for these guys to go out there and brand themselves. But I feel like some of it is like their PR teams probably dilute them a little bit.
They probably shy away from it a little bit.
You do have to be careful with every little thing you say nowadays. I mean,
absolutely.
One wrong slip of a word on this podcast and we're done, So I understand that you do have to be careful, but also like go be yourselves. And there's nothing easier than hopping on Twitter, Snapchat, IG, Facebook, doing a little video, a funny video here and there, showing your personality more. And I'm surprised a lot of these guys don't take more advantage of that.
Yeah, like Eric said, you look at a guy like Matt DiBenedetto, where like last year he was, well, not even last year, like 2019, he was a really fan favorite underdog. And then 2020, it kind of, people are still rooting for him, but he was kind of doing the same old shtick. This year, now he's doing the, oh, woe is me, I don't have a ride type deal. And it kind of puts you off away from that kind of deal,
well, see, this is the thing. He tried the self-promoting thing, but it was fake. It wasn't.
You could tell,
him.
yeah. Oh,
You
yeah.
can tell when you're trying to do something that's not normally in your wheelhouse.
People can
You know,
sniff out if you're not being
you
genuine.
could sniff it out. And I think that's what happened. You got to give him credit for trying.
Yeah.
But I think he kind of rubbed the people in that demographic where he was going, you know, they kind of felt like, hey, you're using me, you know? So like,
because now you've alienated the people that were behind you already.
Oh, it's tough. It's tough out there.
It's a fine line. Yeah. You got to be careful with everything you say and do.
No, yeah, totally agree. But I still think there's ways to have fun with it, you know?
Sure.
You just got to think outside the box, figure out how to market yourself. I think, like, Matt, you said it too, Ryan Blaney has done a great job without even really trying, I don't think. You know, I think Blaney's just been being himself, but he has a cool aura about him.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, he's got like a nice looking mullet. He's got his hat on, his thick mustache. Like, he looks like, oh yeah, I'd hang out and have a beer with that guy, you know? So I don't know, just something to ponder. We're getting late in the show. We had another topic, but I think it'll pair nicely next week. I already said, like, oh, we're gonna preview and we're gonna talk about how we discovered our driver. So we're gonna combine how did you guys become fans, and then how did you find your driver? We will talk about that on the next Bump and Run podcast. I believe, and we're gonna try our best to get this out in 2 weeks. On the 27th, we'll give you a post-Christmas episode. We might all be together live and in the flesh, or it might happen on Wednesday and we'll be over a Skype call again. Either way, that's what we got to look forward to. I'm sure we'll have tons of NASCAR news over the next 2 weeks to discuss. We've got some open topics. Matt, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, since we're not going to be on, this is our last show before Christmas. Merry Christmas to all of our listeners. You guys have been awesome. We see the numbers. We see the same people that listen to us. Keep it up. Keep spreading the word. We're going to be back and better and hopefully bigger next year for the 2022 season. So Merry Christmas to you two, but everyone who listens to us.
Absolutely. You want to know what, Matt? I'm glad you're thinking ahead. I wasn't even thinking about that. But yeah, have a Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. If you don't listen to the next episode, we still want to wish you a Happy New Year, happy holidays, whatever you celebrate, whatever you might be into. I just hope you guys have a great couple of weeks. We will talk to you again in 2 weeks. We'll talk about how we became fans and how we found our drivers. Eric's Panic Kitty. We're running out of time here. For Matt, the Stat Man Reilly, for Eric Daytona Ron, I'm Michael D. White, saying have a good night.
Bump and dump and run.